Hello YouTube, how's it going? This is the crossover and I'm back with another video. Today is going to be another one of my scouting reports for this upcoming draft class, and today we're going to be taking a look at Arizona's Bennedict Mathurin. So without any further delay, let's get straight into the video. Moving on to some stats regarding Bennedict Mathurin, he is 19 years old, stands at about 6 foot 7 inches, weighs about 210 pounds, and has a 6 foot 9 inch wingspan. However, regarding his wingspan, I did find some discrepancy in terms of an exact measurement. I saw some people listing it from 6'8", the 6'9" range, all the way to 6'10", 6'11". When you watch him on the court, he does seem to have a plus wingspan. However, I didn't think it was in the 6'10", 6'11" range, so I just landed on 6'9" as a solid estimate. However, very good overall physical profile for the young wing. This year with Arizona, this is his second year playing for the university, and his stats have all increased dramatically, especially in the points category. Last year he was averaging 10 points per game. This year he's averaging 18. His rebounds have increased. He's averaging 6 rebounds this year, and he's averaging 2 assists this year. And he has a 58.8 effective field goal percentage, very solid percentage for a player that is essentially his team's number one option. The Arizona's offense relies on him as their primary scorer. So very efficient, very solid effective field goal percentage for Bennedict. He's also shooting 79% from the free throw line. He's been getting to the line a little bit more compared to last year, but solid percentage overall. Good indication for his shooting splits when he moves on to the NBA. It's very encouraging to see that he's shooting 79% from the free throw line. And I also wanted to include that he has a 48.4 3-point attempt rate, which essentially means that damn near half of his shots are coming from behind the arc, which, again, you love to see. Coming from, again, a young wing's shot profile, you love to see him taking pretty much half of his shots from behind the arc. So overall, very good stats for Bennedict, great physical profile overall. Moving on to the strengths of Bennedict Mathurin as a prospect, my first two bullet points essentially cover the fact that he is a very good offensive player without the ball in his hands. He moves very well around the court, and he's a very good cutter as well. He does a great job of recognizing that when the ball handler is attacking his strong side, of recognizing when his man is helping to contain the ball handler. He does a great job of recognizing it on a moment's notice and cutting to the basket. Very solid finisher around the rim with his length, and as well as the 210 pounds that he does carry. It's pretty rare to see, his archetype of player carry that much weight, and it's not necessarily, fat or anything. He's just a strong dude, and, he carries that weight well, and he uses it to his advantage around the rim, which you love to see. However, he, aside from just being a great cutter, he just knows how to move without the ball. He does a great job of recognizing, like, okay, the ball handler's attacking over here. Let me move to the other side of the court and bring my man with me to kind of clear out the lane for him. Bennedict Mathurin has shown has shown IQ in terms of that on the offensive side of the floor, and that's something that you really like to see from a player so young and still developing as well. And he's also a very good shooter off the ball. This year, 87% of his shots came off the ball, compared to 92, 93%, I believe, last year. And he just has very solid form and elevation on his shot. There's no hitches in his shot. I think his shooting hand gets good release, has good elevation as well as his guide hand. And there's no clear hitches or anything like that. Solid form overall, and he gets very good elevation. Like some wings, like they don't necessarily get up all that much, but Bennedict Mathurin like gets up, and that combined with his wingspan, there's not a lot of guys out there that can really contest his shot off the ball. So in catch and shoot situations, which is very impressive again for a guy that's so young and still improving, his feel and whatnot for the game. However, he is a very solid free throw shooter as well. Even though it is at 79%, it may not look like the greatest percentage. But you also have to keep in mind that, these guys are young, and, it's very rare for them to shoot, in the 80s or high 80s. However, Bennedict last year did shoot 84%. He is taking more this year. I do feel like some of that does have to do with just his offensive load being a lot heavier than it was last year. So maybe that's kind of waning on his free throw percentage. But still, I mean, 79 is a pretty good percentage. And, the form is pretty solid. I think it's been inconsistent in terms of his shooting hand placement. I feel that his shooting hand can kind of like veer out when on the release. Like he'll shoot it, and then his shooting hand will maybe kind of like go off to the side or a little bit. But it's nothing crazy. Like there's no obvious hitches. I feel like it's just something he could improve on a little bit. But overall, it's just a very solid form, both on and off the ball. We'll get to his on ball shot in a minute. But overall, I mean, the free throw form is fine. And the percentage is there, so it's 79% is a good indication that he'll be a solid shooter moving forward at the NBA level. And he also just has very soft touch around the rim, as I stated, a good finisher around the rim. However, from that 3 to 10 range, he does a great job of shooting floaters. He has very soft touch on them, and that's something that I really love to see, that improvement from year one to year two. His ability to create his own shot on the ball, which we'll talk about, in just a second, but also his ability to get to the rim. He does a great job of attacking off the catch. He doesn't really waste any time. When he catches and rips just catches and rips. You love to see that from him, making quick and decisive decisions, and his floater is very soft. His touch around the rim is just very soft overall, and his floaters don't have like the greatest percentage on them, but you still love to see the fact that he's able to get to the rim and get those shots off and make them at a decent rate. And again, while the percentages aren't great, you still see that he's pulled off this move enough times to the point where you're like, all right, this is a part of his arsenal. And, you love to see that for the young wing. And moving on to his shot creation, which is very tantalizing. It might be the most tantalizing part of his game, honestly. The steps that he's taken from year one to year two are incredible, especially in terms of creating separation on his step backs and side steps overall when he's just creating his own shot. I feel like that's what has improved the most, especially on side steps. That's what he really likes, and it's very impressive. And the handle has been very inconsistent. There's sometimes where he'll make a move and you're like, all right, wow, like he'll create separation, like his change of direction will be great. He kind of like frees up the defender and like hit him with an in and out, and then he'll sidestep and he'll create like he'll create a good amount of space, and then the defender just has no chance. And you're like, oh my god, like that was an awesome move. And then there's sometimes where he can kind of struggle to get the shot off, and his handle is pretty loose right now. It's not bad, but it's, again, as I stated, there's times where it looks great and there's times where it doesn't look so great. So it's a bit inconsistent right now, but I think he's shown enough flashes to suggest that he will be or has the ability to become, as he continues to develop, a on ball scorer at the next level. And I mean, even though the handle is a bit loose, the form is still good. The same. We've looked at some of these prospects, and some of them, their form can differ a little bit when they're shooting off the catch versus when they're shooting off, live dribble. But for Bennedict Mathurin, I don't really feel like that's the case. I feel like his form is pretty consistent, both when he's shooting off the catch and shooting off the dribble. So I mean, that's not really a problem with him, and the fact that he's improved from year one to year two so drastically, is bodes well for his development moving forward. As you hope that he continues that linear progression, even though linear progression doesn't always happen. You love to see, him taking steps forward regardless. And I mean, as I stated here, he's the first option on a top 10 team in the nation. I believe Arizona is a top 5 team in the nation. They're that good. Him and Christian Coloco are that team's 1-2 punch, and he's the first option. Arizona starts with Bennedict Mathurin and dies and excuse me, and ends with Bennedict Mathurin. So the fact that he's the number one option on as good of a team as Arizona is this year just bodes well for his self creation and overall offensive repertoire. Moving forward at the next level, given the fact that he's only 19 years old. We have a lot to look forward to regarding Bennedict Mathurin offensively. However, defensively, he is a pretty solid point of attack defender. His length can cause problems for some ball handlers, and the effort is there. He hustles on the defensive side of the floor. He tries to make that extra play. In that effort play, he dives on the floor. He's in there. He's in the game. And he makes his presence felt. He seems like he's a pretty good he seems like, excuse me, not pretty good communicator. He seems like he's just a pretty good presence on the court. He plays hard, and you love to see that from such a young wing. However, we will talk about his defense in just a second. But overall, his strengths as an offensive player, both on and off the ball, are pretty evident. His ability to score On the ball has improved drastically from year one to year two. His handle is a bit inconsistent right now, but again, you love that linear progression in his development in terms of on ball scoring. He has soft touch on his floaters. He has a solid free throw form, solid free throw percentage, even though it has decreased a slight bit. You can chop that up to his offensive workload in increasing. And he's also a very good mover without the ball, very good cutter, high IQ on the offensive side of the floor, and a very good off-ball shooter as well. So 6'7" wing who's able to play on and off the ball and is an improving self-creator. What's not to love about Bennedict Mathurin? Moving on to some concerns I have with Bennedict Mathurin. First up is on the defensive side of the floor, where on ball he's not the most laterally quick player, and he can get beat by the shiftier ball handlers or the more craftier guys out there, the guys with very good handles that like to break guys down. Bennedict Mathurin is liable to get beaten by them, as he has a good reaction time and like reaction speed, like he reacts to moves like pretty quickly, but like his lateral speed, like moving side to side, isn't like all there in my opinion. Like he can move like a lot, like laterally, obviously, but it's not like to the point where like he can really stay in front of like great ball handlers. So I think that he can get beat by shiftier ball handlers, and I think that at the NBA level he might struggle with that. From day one, and I feel like his lateral speed is something that he's going to have to improve on moving forward. Also, his off-ball IQ it's pretty big. It's probably the most concerning part about his game that he needs to work on right now, as he gets caught ball watching a lot. And I feel that in their only loss, which was against Tennessee, I put his highlights against Tennessee in the part of this slide. But against Tennessee, there was a lot of times where he was just ball watching, and his man was just open in the corner, and he just wasn't really paying attention, and it resulted in a couple open threes that are directly Benedict's fault, and that came in Arizona's only loss this season. So, I feel like his off ball IQ needs to improve. I feel like it's something that he's going to have to work on. And I think, as I state here, I think communication is a big part of that. As he just gets called ball watching a lot, and I think the best way to improve that is just keep talking to whoever's closest to you on the court. It isn't even necessarily just keep talking, so that it keeps you recognized about what's going on the court outside of just watching the ball. And I feel like that would definitely help Benedict, in terms of that aspect. However, moving forward to the offensive side of the ball, where we talked about it before, where his handle is just pretty loose right now, and it's been very impressive at some times and concerning at others, right? There's moments where he'll break a guy down and do a step back, side step three, and you're like, oh my God, it looks great. And then there's other times where it's like he'll get the ball plucked away, or he just lose the ball dribbling it like up the court, and you're just like, oh, okay. So his handle is it's pretty loose right now. So I feel like it needs work in terms of making it more consistent. I feel like he's shown the upside of the handle, but I feel like he needs to fine tune it, tighten it up, so that it's not so loose. And I feel like that's much more of a long term project that goes along with just his overall feel and shot creation on the offensive side of the floor as he continues to get better, in that aspect with his game. And then finally, just decision making on the offensive side of the floor. There's a lot of times where he has the ball like out on the perimeter, like the wing, like the free throw line extended, and he'll kind of just miss an open cutter, or just he misses easy passes, or open shooters in corners when he's attacking. And I feel that he's not a natural playmaker, so I'm not sure how much of these aspects of his game are going to improve. But I feel like it's something that he definitely needs to work on. Just making like those basic simple reads is something that he should definitely work on, just because he's gonna have to make those reads at the NBA level. It's just simple as that. And I feel like working on that and just being able to identify those open players on the floor is the next step. Is part of the next step in becoming a better offensive player for Benedict. But overall, I mean, these concerns are nothing like too crazy. I mean, the off-ball IQ, off-ball defense overall definitely needs work. I feel like his off-ball defense was one of the big reasons Arizona lost their only game as of the making of this video to Tennessee. And just the fact that he's not laterally quick of guys, excuse me, so he can't get beat by shiftier ball handlers. And then his handle, we talked about, it's just inconsistent. We've seen what it can be. when it's we've seen what it can be at its best, and he just needs to continue to work on it, make it more tighter, get more used to running out in space with the ball, in my opinion too. And his decision making overall on the offensive side of the floor just needs to be better in terms of hitting open guys on the court, whether those be cutters or open shooters out on the perimeter. But these are all things that I feel like he can improve on. You have to keep in mind that Bennedict Mathurin hasn't been playing basketball all that much. He is an overseas player. He just came to the United States. I believe he was taking part of the NBA academy overseas, and then he came to Arizona. He came to the States for college, so he hasn't necessarily been playing the highest quality of ball. He hasn't necessarily been playing ball all that much, and you love to see the progression that he has. Uh, that has taken place in his game so far through his first 2 years at Arizona, right? You'll love to see that, and I feel like a lot of these are just IQ and feel things, but he's already shown improvement from year one to year two. So I feel like all these things are things that he's going to improve on, and the work ethic is there. I mean, you don't just go from improving from averaging 10 points, being a very solid role player, being at end of the first round kind of pick, to solidifying yourself as a legitimate top 10 pick, and not just like Bennedict Mathurin can legitimately go anywhere from 5 to 6, 7, maybe 8. 8 is probably the lowest he falls. So your draft stock doesn't raise that high unless you show some improvements, and he definitely has. And he's, again, as I stated before, he's the number one option on my opinion, top 5 team in the nation. So again, I feel like all of his concerns are just things that come as a result of Bennedict Mathurin not having played all that much basketball, and I feel that he's going to move on to the NBA level again. As I stay with a lot of these guys, NBA coaches, NBA development programs, NBA development trainers, coaches, staff, whatever. And I feel like he's just going to continue to get better. I feel like Bennedict Mathurin, very similar, kind of reminds me of a player like Jaylen Brown. They're in the same mold of, excuse me, 6'7" wing, 6'7" two-way wing. Again, they're different athletically, and Jaylen Brown is from the States, but in they're both he reminds me of Jaylen Brown in terms of Jaylen Brown always had an upward trajectory in his development. It was always just every year just adding something and getting better. And Bennedict Mathurin, we've seen that from year 1 and 2 in college, just every year adding something to his game and getting better. So again, Bennedict Mathurin, a two-way wing, create his shot. Who can create his shot? Number one scorer for a top 5 team in the nation, as well as a very viable off-ball shooter, very good cutter. Handles a bit loose, needs some improvement. Very good finisher around the rim. Good soft touch on his floaters. Solid defender. Solid point of attack defender. However, his off-ball IQ definitely needs work. His help defense needs work. He's not the most laterally quick of players, so he can't get beat by shiftier ball handlers. Something he does need to work on. Again, the handle needs to improve it, as well as just his decision making, hitting open guys on the offensive side of the floor. So Bennedict Mathurin, two-way wing, much more of in my opinion, an offensive wing than an offensive. The two-way part of his game is much more on the offensive side of the floor than the defensive side of the floor, but his defensive potential is there. However, I do expect Bennedict Mathurin to go in the top 10, in my opinion. I believe he's probably the 6th, 7th best player in the class. So I have very high praise for the young forward, and I can't wait to rank him, to see where exactly he ranks, amongst the guys like AJ Griffin and Jaden Hardy and Johnny Davis and Jaden Ivey when I get to my big board. So stay on the lookout for that. But besides that, Bennedict Mathurin, great prospect. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about Bennedict Mathurin. Do you like him? Do you not like him? Where do you think he should go in the draft? Should he be a lottery pick, top 10, maybe even top 5? Let me know what you guys think about him in the comments. And again, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and take care. Peace.